first take of this Christmas classic. Wow, Vince Guaraldi's probably rolling over in his grave. Not really. In fact, I think Vince Guaraldi would actually love to hear all the various interpretations that jazz musicians have applied to his Christmas classic, Christmas Time is Here. So, welcome Jazz Piano Skills members. This is your weekly recap of all of our studies this past week. And if you're not a Jazz Piano Skills member, welcome. Glad to have you. In this video, we are going to explore Christmas Time is Here melodically, and we're going to do a recap of our melodic analysis this past week. And we are going to look at various treatments. I'm going to play through the various treatments that I introduced in the podcast last Tuesday. To traditional jazz waltz, nice and relaxed, tempo of 70 of Christmas Time is Here. We're going to look at a snappier tempo of 110, and then a very snappy tempo of 150. All of this to test our skills, our ability to freely interpret and reinterpret the melody of a standard, okay? And, you know, I had a teacher that used to say to me, Bob, if you cannot freely interpret and reinterpret the melody of a standard, then you have no business thinking about improvising over that standard. And he was 100% spot on. So much truth to that. So this skill that I'm going to model for you today is absolutely invaluable. You should be practicing this at home, whether it's on Christmas Time is Here or any standard for that matter. And so I'm going to model that for you today. And hopefully you have your podcast packets in front of you from 2 weeks ago when we did our harmonic analysis, and then this last week with the melodic analysis. I'm going to be using those voicings from 2 weeks ago, the block voicings, root, position, first, second, third inversion, the traditional shells, 379, 735, the contemporary shells, voicings that are built primarily around the interval of a fourth. I'll be using those voicings to support the melody that I am playing today. One other thing I think is really important to mention is that I'm going to be using just a single note melodic interpretation. Single note, right? So the objective here is not to play lush chords in my right hand, lush harmonies. The objective is to actually be able to think like a vocalist or like an instrumentalist and play that melody very freely with much expression, right? With much expression. So this is kind of, like I said, the prerequisite to improvisation development. So I want to stay focused and approach this with a single note melodic representation of the melody, supported by the great voicings that we studied 2 weeks ago. All right. So I'm going to start off with the traditional. And here's what's nice about this, right? In the podcast, right, I did these very same demonstrations in the podcast. However, you don't get to see it, right? It's audio. So today it's nice because you actually get to see me model for you these voicings, as well as how I practice the interpretation and reinterpretation of a melody. So here's Christmas Time is Here, standard tempo of 70. I'm going to play it just a couple times through, all right? And I'm going to have some fun. I'll take some risk and see how I can be very expressive with this melody, all right? So here we go. come in late with phrases. You don't have to play all the notes of the melody. Some grace notes, passing tones. Change it up rhythmically. Take risk. If you fail, so what? That's what practicing's for. Singing that melody internally. Your hands have to take dictation from some source. So if you're not singing internally, then I don't know what your hands are trying to recreate, what your hands are trying to express if they're not taking dictation from somewhere, right? So anyway, that's the whole idea. And notice I stuck with a single note melodic interpretation, playing the voicings in my left hand, just trying to change things up, maybe delaying the entrance of a melodic phrase, coming in maybe early with a melodic phrase, changing it rhythmically, using a grace note, maybe some passing tones. Right? These are all little devices that you can use to be expressive when playing a melody. So, all right, so now what I want to do is I want to challenge myself to take this exact same tune, kick up the tempo, stick with 3/4 time. Now all of a sudden, though, we're at 110, so the groove's going to feel different. The tempo obviously is different. So I'm going to have to approach this melody in a way that's going to be stylistically correct, but yet I'm still going to approach it the same way, single note melodic representation of the melody. I'm going to depend upon changing some things rhythmically, maybe delaying entrances of phrases, coming in early, accenting different notes, all kinds of different ways to express myself, and all of that going to be guided by what I'm internally singing, right? Internally singing. So, all right, here we go. Let's see what this sounds like. Very different, right? Now, I have to say this. It doesn't matter whether or not you like the groove or whether or not you like the tempo. Totally irrelevant. Because the idea here is to focus yourself outside of your comfort zone, to challenge yourself. Different tempos, different grooves. How can I reinterpret that melody to make it work with that groove, with that tempo, regardless of whether you like it or not, right? So this is the approach you should be taking with every single standard. And consider it, like I mentioned earlier, it's a prerequisite to improvisation. Your ability to play the melody, but to have some fun and be expressive with that melody. So now, here it is at 150, right? So again, 3/4 time, 150. I'm going to have to reinterpret that melody already, right? Regardless of what that groove is. I know it's 3/4 time, but at 150, that's very different than 70. Very much so. So let's see what happens. Again, 2 times through. Here we go. Much lighter. I'm going to spend some time with that tempo after I get done with this video. That's challenging, right? So again, any standard, any tune that you're working on, learn the melody, transcribe it. Don't learn it from a fake book. Transcribe the melody, which is going to require you to do a lot of listening. That's the whole point. Do a whole lot of listening. We have a killer listening list that Lisa establishes and puts into our forums, into our community every week for us to all enjoy. You listen to various interpretations, whether they're professional musicians, amateur musicians, jazz musicians, non-jazz, it doesn't matter, right? Listen and then transcribe the melody. Once you have the melody, nice to understand the phrases, the target notes within those phrases, then the fun begins. Begin using our harmonic voicings, our block, whether you're using block voicings, traditional shells, contemporary shells, again, makes no difference. So if you're at the stage of the game where you're working on your blocks, fine, okay? But we use those voicings, we have the melody, the fun begins, the prerequisite to improvisation, taking that melody, playing it using a kind of a standard groove, a standard tempo, then you challenge yourself and go beyond that, right? And see how well, you know that melody, and how developed are your skills to being able to freely interpret and reinterpret that melody, okay? It's a big challenge, but the return on investment, I tell you, is absolutely huge. Okay, so that is kind of a recap of our melodic analysis this past week. Now, coming up tomorrow, we kick things off, a whole new week at Jazz Piano Skills. We kick things off with a podcast episode. We're going to be exploring improvisation ideas for improvisation development. Using Christmas Time is here, so that will come out tomorrow with the new podcast release. On Wednesday, there will be a YouTube short video, quick tip video to help you with your improv development. And then on Thursday evening, we will all gather at the online for the Jazz Piano Skills Masterclass. It's going to be Thursday evening, 8 p.m. Central Time. If you can't make the class, no big deal. They are recorded, so you can watch the video and rewatch the video at your convenience. And then Friday, there'll be another quick tip, YouTube video, short, with a improv challenge. That will be on Friday. And then Saturday, the blog recap will be released Saturday morning. So if you're not on the mail list, please get on the go to Jazz Piano Skills, put your name and email in there so that you are notified when the blog is released. It's a great read. They're all the blogs are only about 4 minutes, about a 4-minute read, but it's a fabulous written recap of our efforts throughout the week as well. All right. So, wow, we've done our harmonic analysis. We've done our melodic analysis. Tomorrow we kick things off with our improvisation development. So, as always, it's time to get busy. It's time to discover, learn, and play. See you tomorrow.